back to yet another episode of Next Best Thought. Your co-host, Andres.
And I'm Sid Kaitan. We're doing this one from the road, so it's going to be special. I promise you, I'm driving, I'm focused, and the only thing I'm doing is talking and thinking. So, not that much multitasking. I think we got this.
And I'm hopeful that we will be more natural when we're in the car, just staring at different scenery as we drive. And yeah, we lose some of that camera performance that comes with it.
And worse comes worse, I'm still driving better than a lot of the Uber drivers you get into the car with that are literally trying to kill you.
Yeah.
So we're just cruising on Lakeshore Drive, taking Andres back to what he often describes as his death trap, Northbrook from the Chicago.
I will say that's not the words I use, but I'm not disagreeing with the sentiment.
I might have made that up. All right, well, let's jump into it.
This week I've been thinking about a particular topic, which is the idea of being cool. I remember when I was in high school, there were the cool kids, and when I was in college, again, there were cool kids. And then when I was doing my PhD, again, there were the cool kids and the not so cool people. And there were the in-groups and the out-groups. And it got me thinking, what is cool? What does it mean to be cool? What do you think, Sid?
Well, I think being cool is, of course, it's subjective, but since we are programmed from society to think certain things are cool, right? Looking good, having money, being successful, we all look at cool in actually similar light. You can kind of read a room, right, and be like, oh yeah, those are the cool people. Everyone sees it. There is that impression some people make, and we all commonly accept it. But yeah, for me as well, I think being cool should be something that you define and decide on. For me, I think, unlike Andres, I was actually in some of these cool groups, and it was fun. It was nice for some time. It felt good, but it was a constant search and barometer you had to play with, where it's like, how cool am I? Where do I stand? What do I need to do to belong? Whereas now, I still struggle with this, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But when I'm on my best day, I realize I can't let someone else's definition of cool run my life. That is a horrible way to live. And since it's so subjective and actually based on what other people think of you, it's a losing game. You can never be cool enough.
For me, kind of a very succinct definition is to be cool is to be part of the group that garners attention, whether that be through being talented in some athletic skill or just being attractive, because it garners attention. So if you are someone that is arresting, demanding the attention of others, then you're going to be cool, whether that be through charisma or etc. If you're funny, you might be part of the cool group, the group that demands attention. But when it comes to being cool, I think there is this pursuit of wanting to be cool, to get attention. And when you pull the thread on why do we want to be cool? Why do we seek this sense of belonging in the favorable group? I don't think in our evolution there is a sense of, you have to be a part of a specific cool group. When you consider things like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there's food, shelter, and senses of belonging being lower in the pyramid. We can try to break down exactly what it means, but I'm more asking, so why do we care about being cool? Why is it important? And when you start pulling that thread, you start realizing, okay, so I want attention, I want a sense of belonging. But what am I willing to do for that? am I willing to lose my sense of uniqueness? Because the canonical idea or the stereotype of someone that is cool is that they fall into a certain label, into a certain category. But inherently, they have the category of cool, and because they are cool, they they now play that role, someone that gets attention. So people begin to speak the same way as they often do with each other, because people who are cool speak a certain way. People who are cool dress a certain way. People who are cool behave a certain way. Do take drugs, drink alcohol. These are people who are cool. They behave in this particular way. And so when you ask yourself, okay, so if I want to be cool, I have to behave that way. And you start to lose your sense of uniqueness, your own individuality.
Well, yeah, I know you were talking about the hierarchy of needs, and I actually think being cool does fit in our evolutionary timeline because it's about belonging. Really, if you are the cool person, if you are perceived as the leader in a group, then you have the highest chances of survival. You get to tell the tribe, here's what we're doing next. And once again, I guess as I'm saying that, I realize I'm also imposing a certain definition of cool. Cool is someone who is social. Cool is someone who has a big network. And, potentially could be said that that's probably commonly acceptable as well, right? Other people would agree that's what cool is, or, that's part of the definition for a lot of people. The other piece of what you're saying, I think is really interesting is cool puts a label on you and then it limits what you can be, right?
Yes.
At least for me, it's funny that we're talking about this now because last night we went to one of my buddy's DJ sets and I was having a great time. And then I ran into a group of people I no longer really associate with, hang out with, and definitely the cool group, right? A lot of them come from money. A lot of them are doing really awesome things. They're successful. They have a big network, all of that. And I kind of split up because I went through a tough time myself. And also, I think some of my values don't really line up anymore because I'm not, doing some of those things, drinking all of that. As they say, like if you quit and, those friends are no longer there, they're probably not your real friends. But I immediately saw, like, I was dancing, I was enjoying myself, just being myself. And instantly when I found out or saw this group, I said, hey, what's up, or whatever. But it just changed how I was behaving from that moment on. It was like, oh, how do they want me to be? How should I be kind of acting, performing versus just living in the moment, being myself? So those labels, you start to guess what other people want out of you versus trying to just be yourself. And I think that is kind of the danger of being cool. Now, at the same time, can cool be cool or like good for you? I think so, right? If you have the right definition, because, going back to something you always talk about of, being enough, we are cool. And like, if that's the case, then you don't need anyone else to tell you that. You don't need, validation to believe it.
I love that. I feel like every time we have one of these conversations, I begin to reflect mid-sentence, mid-conversation. My thoughts change. I wonder about everything that I've said. I question everything we talked about. I think one thing that makes cool is the fact that cool is inherently a higher order thinking abstraction. So we cool deals with perception, how people think about you and how you think people perceive you. It's like all these layers to it. You're playing mind games with everyone else. Surely, not everyone cares about what you're thinking or how other people perceive you. But in your case, you saw that other group and you thought, oh, I want to maintain my belonging with them. I want to maintain my connections. So I'm going to change my behavior in such a way where I think that they will still like me. But by doing that, by changing your behavior, you stop being your genuine, authentic self. And now you are sacrificing your uniqueness for what? And that's the key thing I'm trying to get at today. Why do we sacrifice our uniqueness, our creativity, the things that make us unique. I remember a time when I was a kid, I could tell silly jokes, make funny faces, make funny noises with my friends. Like and when you have a partner or like a really close friend, you might do it where you're just like, you just make noises with each other, just laugh and be silly. Rarely do you see the canonical cool people doing things like that because that's just weird. That's strange. That deviates from the norm. So
It requires you to put yourself out there, to be vulnerable,
exactly,
take off the shield.
and so you sacrifice a little bit of your uniqueness, the thing that makes you you, for the sake of what? For what? To be happy, to be accepted, to be loved. And if you ask yourself, so I sacrifice those things for that, then that is inherently implying that you think that you are not enough.
Well, I like you were talking about the abstraction piece of this because, like we were saying, cool, it's individualistic, right? What we define as cool will be how we try to act. So even if I'm part of one cool group, there's other groups that I'm part of who all have different definitions of cool. I think yesterday we were talking like, if I'm in a League of Legends league with some of my friends or in a gaming league, then it's cool to be a gaming nerd, right? Whereas if you're in whatever, the typical cool kids and jocks group, they might think that's weird. So we take all of the definitions of cool that have ever been given to us and kind of use that to live by and then kind of become chameleons where it just keeps evolving, changing based on who you're with. Now, some of that is just humans, right? We mimic, we imitate, and that's fine. But to do it at a scale where you are always thinking about what other people want, all of a sudden that becomes rough and like can cause issues. So
Absolutely.
I would love to toe the line between theory and reality. I'm curious to hear from you. Is there any good stories where you felt like you had to be cool?
Yeah, I think so. No stories are popping into my mind right off the top of my head, but I want to touch on the idea of lying and how it relates to being cool. So, and I think that'll lead into a story because oftentimes when you are pretending to be someone that you are not for the sake of admiration, fame, whatever, or being part of the in group, the cool people, if you're pretending to be someone you're not, then you're effectively lying to those people and to yourself. And if you're not being genuine, then you are being detrimental to yourself. And I think that manifests in different ways. I think it manifests as uh, relationship problems. It manifests as sometimes physical problems. And yeah, so I think lying is a big part of it. You're not being genuine with yourself. You are foregoing that uniqueness within you for some gain. Also, I wanted to say that we were driving through Chicago and it's just peak fall and it's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Going through Evanston up north, it's pretty good ride. And we did a little bit of the lake. It's very soothing. I think I could get used to this format. I'm curious why other people don't do it. Maybe it's because it is probably dangerous.
Maybe. I mean, I think people definitely do talks on the car and they just record themselves speaking. I think some people feel more natural talking in the car.
Yeah, I actually do. I think I have better thoughts as well. To be honest, I zoned out a little while you were just talking. So
Yeah, I know. That's okay. So you were asking me to tell a story. And I'm trying to think. I don't think I really ever tried to pursue being cool. Yeah, it's stunning. Uh, I think about the times for me being cool was something that either it happened or it didn't. Um, I I think for the most part I have tried to be someone that just pursues the things that interest me. not to the point where they no longer interest me. But there have been times where I've tried to control my outcome, and that me trying to control it uh, led me to pretending to be someone that I was not.
There's also a fine line. And just like everything else we've ever talked about, I'm going to talk about the DJing example. So I think when I got started, a lot of my friends were getting into DJing. I saw it, of course, when I was going out, and I thought it was cool. And I think that it was a motivating factor, but then what kept me in the game was very much everything else to do with it. And the funniest part to me is like what I thought would be cool, right? Oh, you're gonna like whatever, be famous and all of that. None of that happened. I think but now I've internalized that. It's cool to me to be able to do this. I don't care about what other people are thinking. It's like, wow, like if I told 12-year-old me that I could scratch and like do cool techniques as a DJ, I'd be pretty happy with myself. And it wouldn't matter what other people think. That's a tough one. I think this topic in general, most of us as humans struggle with it. And it's in some dimension, one or the other. And this one to me, as you were saying it, I was like, wow, well, it is a very tricky, nuanced topic.
And it evolves over time because when you're a kid, what you perceive as cool changes. What you perceive it as a kid changes to what you perceive as a teenager, what you perceive as a college student, as someone in their late 20s, early 30s. It always changes. What does it mean to be cool? And, I wonder what people in their 60s think about what does it mean to be cool? And it's one of those things that maybe you just decide, well, maybe if I pursue my absolute uniqueness, then this is my thinking. If you pursue your absolute uniqueness and creative crafts to the fullest, then the circles that will appear in front of you will reflect that uniqueness. Because naturally you just won't resonate with the people who don't match your sense of creativity, your uniqueness. And so they will just be pushed out of your circle. And the people that belong, they will be in your circle. You have to be the leader of your own cool circle.
Yeah, you have to mix and match, build your own. And honestly, some of the more successful people I've met are exactly what you're saying. They really don't belong to any specific group. They're all part of like very diverse ones. And to your point, they actually intentionally try to make sure they don't suffer from groupthink, from sticking to one definition. Okay, so let's kind of zoom in. We talked about some stories. I'm curious what kind of tips we want to share. So one of them I would love to just start with, right? I gave you guys a situation of me being out and noticing that all of a sudden my behavior changed. Of course, that is step one, right? Is you have to identify that, oh, there is a shift here. Why am I behaving this way? Is it because of some external force? Then I think what I did was ask myself, so what am I trying to accomplish? And as you correctly noted, it was like, oh, I want to feel like I belong with this specific group. Then what I did, I reminded myself I belong. And Andres, my friend and therapist, was like, remind yourself of your identity. So I think that is very powerful because as humans, we want to belong. And we also want to have a stick in the ground and say, this is who I am. So I think to your point, that's the starting place. I am an entrepreneur. I am a DJ. So these are the people I want to belong with. And if that's the case, that's kind of where I went was, okay, I don't need to fit in or belong with all of this group. I am by definition part of the community of DJs, of entrepreneurs. It doesn't have to be this specific group. It is in general. If I think of it on a large scale, I'm part of a much bigger clan. And that can't be taken away from me just because of any given night. It's set in stone. It's there. It's happening. And I have proof in my mind that I can own that.
No one can ever make you feel anything directly.
Right.
Every feeling that you have ever had has come from within you. everything that stems from within you is based on your own limiting beliefs and the own self labels you have placed on yourself. So if you feel like you belong, if you feel like you're awkward, if you feel like you're this, you're that, it's because there, in some way, shape, or form, you believe it. So, like you said, self-reflection is the first step. So if you feel some kind of way, you feel awkward, you feel like you should be cool, you should be that, you should be this, you're not enough. It's because there's some underlying limiting belief that's underlying that mindset. Um, so I think that's the biggest takeaway in terms of tips. Just catch yourself doing these things, and then treat yourself with kindness and compassion, and say, okay, I'm feeling weird. I I feel like I should interact with these people. They make me feel like I'm feeling strange. The reason I'm feeling strange is because maybe I'm slowly stepping out of this circle. Maybe I'm no longer in this circle anymore. Maybe I'm no longer that person. And so I very naturally feel this isn't right. That's my body telling me I'm not part of this crew anymore because I've evolved. This is part of my human evolution. And so I wanna wrap this episode up with a question.
Okay, go ahead. Are you going to remember it if I interrupt
Listen, go ahead.
Once again, part of the reason we do this is because I want to talk to people who maybe are dealing with something similar or younger versions of ourselves. So I had two that I really wanted to mention. And oh my gosh, hopefully I'm going to remember them. Yes. One of them is see the people that you are trying to be cool with. Imagine they're naked. People use this as a public speaking actually trick, right? So if you're nervous in front of a crowd, you can just put yourself in the mindset of they're all naked. So it's like funny all of a sudden, and you're having fun. It just completely changes the mood, the energy in the room because you're just now laughing. You're just, everything is just a joke versus you're taking this so seriously, all this pressure on the line. I think similarly with being cool, that helps you realize that above all of this kind of facade, we're all just humans, right? And we're all really very similar. So once again, at the higher level, we all belong. We're all in this together. We're all similar in some sort of way and unique. The other one is reminding yourself of what you thought was cool as a kid and how much that has changed. We were just talking about it. It evolves over time. And at least for me, I was just thinking about it. I was like, wow, 15-year-old me would actually be pretty happy with how things turned out. Met a few women, figured it out, wasn't just going to be like a lonely 14-year-old kid and playing RuneScape all the time. If I could tell myself that at 14, I'd be like, wow, okay, I really don't have to stress too much. Things are going to really work out for me. DJing, really getting to live like I'm still young. Even college me would probably be really proud. So if you remind yourself that, two things happen. One is like, oh, wait, like that version of cool is changed. It will always continue to change. So why would I try to live up to it? And then two is just that, yeah, it's constantly evolving and you should be proud. You should be proud of what you've accomplished and how cool you are.
I think that's beautiful. This idea of self-validation is extremely powerful. You are proud of yourself. And I also want to add one little bit to this, which is the key thing about looking back to your younger self and saying, imagine your younger self being proud of you for everything you've accomplished. Well, guess what? That 14-year-old self that looks forward to seeing how your life turned out, it says, wow, I don't have to worry. Things just work out. Well, you can have that mindset right now. You can say, well, my 60-year-old version would say, relax. It all worked out. It worked out even better than you could even imagine. Why are you stressing? A man that suffers before it's necessary always suffers more than necessary. Just let it happen. Relax. You don't have to try to belong. Stop trying to control your outcome. Just let it happen. So let's wrap up with the question. And the question is very simple. It's what does being cool mean to you? Does it matter? And why?
those are 3 questions, but I think those are the right those are the right questions. So that's a great way to close out. I hope you guys got some tips. What's your next best thought? See you soon.